So this is part two of a three-part series. In the first part, we took a look at the unboxing. Now we're taking a look at the specifications to make a better decision if this watch is in fact for you. And the first thing that I want to start off with is the dimensions of the watch, because that's more important. After liking the design, you have to make sure it fits for your wrist. Now it's a diameter of 42 millimeters, which most people would consider to be the max size that they want to go. But more importantly, with my calipers, I found that the lug to lug is 49.4. Now, that being said, there's a dramatic curve in the watch altogether. So whether you have a 7¼ inch wrist like myself or a 6½ inch wrist, you'll see that that's going to fit both wrists for that reason. Now, it is a thinness of 10.5 millimeters, so I had no problems wearing the watch. It's going to fit underneath the cuff if you have a more dressier type of situation. But when we look at the crown, that's 4.9 millimeters. Now that's on the smaller side of things. And I understand why probably design-wise the crown was smaller, but remember, this movement altogether is high precision. Therefore, you're not messing with that crown. In fact, you're probably not setting the time more than once a year, except for daylight saving time where you have to adjust the hour. And you also don't have a date complication to adjust for every offset month. So it's not too much of a detriment to have a smaller size crown, and there is a good amount of knurling on that crown altogether to make for a better grip. The water resistance is going to be 30 meters, and that is more so of a splash resistance. So we're talking about very light rain or hand washing. You don't want to do any submersion of the watch altogether. You don't want to put it under a lot of constraint when it comes to aquatic activity. That's going to be just light use and regular hand washing type of situations. And the lug width is 16 millimeters. That gives the watch more of an integrated type of feel. It is going to be a specialized size. You're not going to find a lot of straps available for it aftermarket. So it's a good thing that Bulova provided us with straps, one being more of a formal dressy occasion and the other being more of a sporty, lighter type of feel. And when you have that rubber strap that we're going to talk about very soon here, it's going to have an even lighter presence on wrist, good for those type of activities altogether. The weight of the watch head alone is 54 grams, and that had a presence on its own. It did have more heft than you would feel on normal quartz watch. And additionally, you're gonna have 130 grams fully linked. So those are all of the specifications on the outside. We'll get to the movement in more details on how the function and the use of the watch is gonna work internally, which is very important for this watch. But first, let's take a look at the case and the exterior bird eye view of that case. So it's going to begin with the crystal. Of course, we know that it's curved on that crystal to match the case itself, but it's also slightly domed over it. It's ever so slightly domed. Now, overall, that crystal has given me an oval shape. It's not exactly a full circle. It is curved, and it has an oval shape with a flattening on the center of it as well. And when you look at that side profile, looking over the top of that crystal, almost looks like it's concave, but it is a flattening on the middle, bowing out at the sides and curved from top to bottom. It is a sapphire crystal with AR coating applied. Now, because of the nature of the crystal being curved, you're always going to receive some sort of glare, which makes AR coating even more important. And in my true experience, when I'm looking at this and I'm catching some daylight, it's always still legible because of the fact of that applied AR coating, and you're able to even see through most glare that's kicking back. You're able to see through that, and you're able to see the bold indices and indexes. So time reading is never really an issue, and it's just a matter of fact of turning your wrist and getting away from the stronger amount of glare, which again, you could still see the bold characters through it. There are break lines near the lugs that appear to be fixed on the top portion of it. On the side profile of the case, we have vertical brushing in the center, recessed, bead blasted into the lugs, polished framing surrounding it all. The pushers are vertically brushed on the side and polished on the top on the bottom. There are three key elements that Bulova decided to finish this case entirely, and they have a continuity throughout the entire case to match. And there's an extreme amount of details that we're seeing on the pushers to match the side profile of the case itself. And that's a key way for you to be able to pull your full design together when you're using the finishing in that type of way. So we have to discuss about the function of the chronograph. And it's not like a normal chronograph where you're just pushing the top pusher and that's going to activate the chronograph altogether. You actually have to set the chronograph second, which is the bottom sub-register. Once you press the button once, it's going to reset to that 0 position. Now you can start the chronograph by pressing the top button, which is going to activate it to swing around. After which, whenever you want to stop that chronograph for whatever your timing, you press that again, and then you're going to hit the bottom button to do a normal reset. So everything happens normally after that activation for the chronograph, but it's also important to hit that button again if you're no longer using that function, so it can go back to that normal time reading, and the movement is actually tracking where the second hand left off and it's going back to that position. You don't want to leave it in the chronograph function mode because there is a function inside that's remembering where that second hand needs to be, and that's going to burn extra battery time over time. We get a push-pull crown. It's polished, engraved with the logo, and has a coined edge knurling. Another thing that I've found with this watch that I like a lot, when you're pulling that crown out to set the time, if you do have to reset the time, again, if it's daylight saving, that's probably the only time that you'll have to do that because of the high precision within the movement itself. The second hand actually resets back to 0, and that just makes things a lot easier. The dial really starts on the top of the rehaut where they decided to give it a polish. It drops down into a circular brushing. Now already that's important. The polishing on the top of the rehaut match with that sloped polished bezel. And then on the side wall of the rehaut, they decide to give it a brush. After that rehaut wall, we have a chapter ring that's going to house our minute markers and the hour markers that are slightly loomed, not with dots, but with small squares. That's going to be the beginning of where the loom starts. And that chapter ring is very interesting. I didn't realize it until I went out to the light that it actually gives a sunburst type of feel. After that chapter ring, there's striation lines, another circular kind of element that's going to house the applied indices, which are going to be brushed, polished on the sides, which is another way of catching light element into the dial itself. There are break lines to those applied indices that are going to be around the registers. So they're there, but they're also mindful not to get in the way of the bicompax registers that are applied on there. At the 12, we do have that Bulova logo that is synonymous with the brand. There's no polishing on that element, but it is going to drop down past close to the center of the dial, which gives you more of that depth throughout the watch itself. On the bicompax registers, you're going to be able to track the minutes, you're going to be able to track the hours, and then the rings that track the time itself are also raised off the dial floor. So we're seeing a lot of key elements. We're seeing the outside chapter ring being at a certain level, probably leveled with the applied indices itself, but under, you see a drop with a lot of striations going through there. It's nicer to have those indices feel like they're floating, which creates more of a depth, but that's going to also lean into the dial floor, which it's see-through, so it's giving even more of a transparency and giving it even more of a depth. The bicompax registers kind of have a privacy screen to it, to where at the 6th register, which is showing you where the seconds hands, is see-through like the main plate floor of the dial. Bulova is painted in white. Everything actually here on the dial is painted in white to make it very clear and legible against that darker brown. But again, in the light source, it's going to be a lot brighter. On that chapter ring, it's going to change and transform from a darker to lighter as well. And finally, the hands that are going to track for the chronograph are polished versus the hands that are going to tell you the time that are much bolder are brushed, skeletonized, and loom tipped. Now, the loom on the tip of these hands are going to be much more powerful than what we get for the chapter ring. The loom is decent, okay? It's not what we expect out of a diver, but it is good and effective when you're going quickly into a nocturnal setting, whether you're stepping into a dark room, passing through a dark tunnel. And again, it is a tool watch, but not in the same category as a diver where we would need much more loom throughout the entire piece. But the boldness and the size of the hour and minute hand is what makes it legible altogether. I even noticed a very small detail in those hands. It took a little bit of time for me to catch it. I first thought that the middle pivot point of those hands is exposed, but it's actually slightly polished in the very center that's capping the hour and minute hand. And I also noticed that the minute hand is slightly curved, not to foul for the crystal. So those are just some things that I'm giving you guys. That doesn't really matter. But what's most important about that minute hand being curved, to give it the space between itself and the crystal, when you're looking at it dead on, you're not seeing that curve into the hand. You literally have to get on top of it and maybe use a jeweler's loop to even take notice. For the Caseback, we get a sapphire exhibition style. So effectively now we're seeing that we're getting a sapphire sandwich. We're getting sapphire in the front, sapphire in the back. They are displaying the back of the movement itself because they're proud of it. It's curved. You should be able to appreciate that. You should be a talking point. It should be something you could see visibly. And I have to agree here, even though it's a quartz movement, it's a special quartz and it's a talking point. That Caseback is screwed down. It has horizontal brushing, it has polished edges, spec text engraved, horizontally brushed on the back of the case itself, and there's a touch of polish on the tip of the lugs. Now let's talk about the other half of the coin here, which is the movement itself. Bulova is calling this the NR20 high power quartz curve, and by now you guys know that it's built and constructed to actually have a curve. The frequency is 262 kilohertz. That's 8 times greater than your standard quartz. It requires a completely custom movement architecture. It auto resets the second hand when you pull the crown, like I mentioned to you guys before. 1 year battery life is what they're claiming, but here's the deal about how much time a battery lasts on average and what the company usually states. It states that it's 1 year, but that just really depends on how much you're using the chronograph function. That's an average. Most watches, even if it's a high-powered quartz, is going to last a little bit longer than that, depending on how much you utilize that chronograph function itself. At least that's been what's in my experience. What's more important is when you're switching out that battery when it comes time to do so to a high drain version. This is gonna be the SR927W. Pay attention to that, because if you put a standard battery in this is a high powered quartz movement. That accuracy is gonna be the trade-off for how much battery is going to be drained. So you want to put the right correct battery when you're swapping that out. The bracelet's going to have horizontal brushing, polishing between the single solid links, quick release function, of course, like I've mentioned before, solid female end links that have a 90-degree drop off. There are half links involved in this bracelet, which is very important, especially when we're talking about a butterfly clasp. Split pin adjustment, it tapers from 21.5 millimeters down to 18 millimeters. All of the edges are smooth. It has polished flanks to match the case side profile. It is a butterfly clasp, like I mentioned, double trigger push deployant, and the last link is engraved with the logo. The bracelet on this watch was not an afterthought, and I think that's very important when you're dealing with a more integrated style bracelet. You want it to match, you want it to be comfortable, and to emphasize the point, when you have this on wrist, something you don't normally see with integrated style bracelets is the zero spacing between your wrist and the bracelet to the case itself. Bulova's giving you a second strap here, which is going to be a rubber strap, which is pretty important because it has a specific size to fit in it. The rubber strap has a design that matches the striations to the dial that we mentioned before. The strap is very supple, straight out of the box. It conforms to the wrist. It, of course, also includes the quick release function. It has a metal coated in a black PVD at the lug attachment. The buckle is brushed, engraved, polished on the edge and the sides itself. And there are grooves that I've found at the bottom of the strap where it's keeping the keepers in place. So on the second keeper that catches the extra strap on your wrist, that usually throughout the course of the day floats around. But I've noticed that with the design that Bulova has chosen for their rubber strap, that's actually going to stay in place with those groove score lines that are underneath the strap without you feeling it at all or it being any kind of discomfort. You get a 3-year manufacturer's warranty against manufacturer defects, which is longer than the 1 or 2 years that's normally provided. So I've given you guys all the specific specifications that I found on my personal calipers here. Nothing was lifted off of the website. These are all my findings, and I've also given you 2 examples for a 7¼ inch wrist and a 6½ inch wrist. But additionally, Bulova has the technology on their website where you're plugging in the size of your wrist so you can get an idea of how it's going to fit. Now, that's not the perfect thing. The best thing for you to do is go in person and try yourself, but I think that kind of gives you an idea overall. The main thing to take away is to know that that lug to lug is going to be dramatically flexible in fitting between wrists because of the degree of the curve itself. So those are all of the objective features that I found within the watch, and I hope that that helps allow you to make a better decision about it. If I didn't cover anything, leave it in the comments and I'll be sure to answer you guys. The next video that we're looking at here is long-term ownership in real life experiences. So stick around if you're interested in having that kind of information as well. And as always, I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable asset, which is time, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one.